Like organisms, small enterprises pass through distinct stages in their life cycle. As they develop and grow, these different stages pose different challenges for the entrepreneur. Interestingly and consequently, the strategies that are needed to cope with these challenges would also vary from stage to stage. It is therefore important for the entrepreneur to be able to recognize what to expect at each different stage and to be able to evolve his strategies to cope with these challenges effectively. It is often because of the lack of such preparedness and the appreciation that challenges and strategies would vary, that sickness normally creeps in a small-scale enterprise. The stages in life of a small enterprise can be broadly classified into 5 categories: startup, survival, growth, expansion, and maturity. While the stages and the sequence remains more or less common for all the enterprises, the time taken by one enterprise to go from one stage to another would vary widely over the nature of the enterprises. This may depend upon the nature of the competition, the nature of the activity, or simply the personal ambitions and aims of the entrepreneur himself. For most new enterprises, the first phase, that is the startup, is the most critical one. In addition to the usual teething troubles associated with starting any new venture, the small entrepreneur has to cope with problems like facing a cash crunch, time and cost overruns, and simply finding the right kind of people for the right jobs. To take a closer look at these challenges, let us visit PBC Private Limited, a small enterprise associated with specialized printing.
Right from the very beginning, I always thought I should have something of my own. I'm into printing, desktop publishing, and graphics designing, executive presentations. This has been my line, and really speaking, a lot of my interest has been in this line from the very beginning. And as soon as I saw computers coming into this line, I thought, well, yes, this is the time to get into it, and I just took a jump. First thing was to get the minimum equipment that one needs to get started with, and I thought, well, I needed at least 180 to get off with. And for that, I needed a lot of resources, which I had to organize. And 2 was the registration that we had to go through. We thought that we wanted to be a big company at a later date, and we couldn't go ahead with just a partnership name. After all, private limited company has its own standing in the market. So we had to go over all those kind of things, went to a CA. He helped us out in the registration of the firm. Well, there were quite a few things that we wanted to do at the time when we started. We were a group of 3 persons who conceived of this idea, and one was what I'm doing, and second was software development. Besides that, we wanted to have complete infrastructure at a later date for executive presentation services, and try and introduce a lot of professionalism in this area, and not just come down to a shop kind of an atmosphere. As of date, I feel I'm doing pretty well on my first aim per se. Software development never got started off, since my other people couldn't join in. And my only problem that I see as of date is that our industry slowly is lacking a lot in professionalism. You know, many small-time operators just drop in who do not have much knowledge, or technically they are not very competent, but would come in and, you know, they're breaking the rates rather badly, I would say. As market is concerned, I almost had an established kind of a clientele. I didn't have to introduce the product totally, though it was a new product that I was getting into laser typesetting. The process is very much different as far as the preprint is concerned. As far as the finances is concerned, initially I managed to get them from my friends and family members, which after repaying for expansions, I went to the bank and had them organized. As far as my personnel is concerned, touch wood, it has been practically trouble-free. You see, when I started, there were not too many trained personnel available in this area, since it was a new field in many ways. People knew typing, but then they didn't know computers. If anybody knew computers, he didn't know how to do page makeup. It was a fairly new line. So I had people working for me who came in with me as typists, and then I trained them together over the application softwares.
The next phase that the enterprise goes through is the survival phase. This is the stage where, having identified an opportunity and having set up an enterprise, the entrepreneur finds himself the owner-manager of a fledgling concern where he is looking after the entire gamut of activities. Obviously, the challenges that he faces now are quite different from the one in the startup phase. To identify these challenges and take a look at the coping strategies, we shall go to Kocher Plastics and Leathers.
We definitely had a very bad time initially because marketing was the biggest part which we were lacking, you know. So initially we had a lot of problem, like we were depending on, relying on such resources which were not able to give us good orders, you know. Like we were relying on the export houses over here or buying agents over here, which proved to be a real failure for us, you know. In the case of marketing, we changed our strategy again in that we, instead of relying on the buying agents or export houses, we went ourselves out. We exhibited goods over there. We just made a direct contact with the buyers instead of having middleman or anybody involved in it. Because we involved directly with the buyers, definitely we had a good interaction with them, and then whatever they wanted, we gave them exactly what. And after almost a year or 1.5 years, we got a help of the banks then. Our main emphasis from beginning till now was that we were giving them a very, very good quality rather than in giving them any such type of quality which was for the local use or domestic use. For the different markets, we made the different products. Like for Singapore and the Far East countries, they were accepting goods which were a good quality stuff. So like that, for them, we were making a very, very good quality stuff. For America, again, it's a different market, so we were catering to different type of products they were accepting. Now over there, they were not accepting such product which was a very, very good quality product, but still they were accepting a cheaper quality of products, you know, like whatever the price range was the main consideration rather than a quality stuff. So like that, you know, we had to survive. Then due to the advantages which the government also gave, like because of the export benefits which the government gave, we could reduce certain amount of prices also. Yes, we changed quite a lot because earlier we didn't have any proper system of working. Then we developed into a proper way, you know, like complete working was dependent on one person, you know. It's like my mother and myself, we are doing the working together. So my mother, she mainly looks after the marketing part, and because she looks after the marketing part, I can easily look after the production over here. And then we made a very systemized working, you know, like initially we used to work completely by ourselves, which was not sufficient. Like the total quantity which we used to get, it was not convenient to make it over here. So now what we did was that we attached fabrication units with us, and then a lot of working was being involved from those people, and we could divide the working for different months, you know. So separately it was divided into, for 3-4 months we knew that there was a sampling period when we used to develop few samples, and then the complete working used to take place, which was till the Christmas, you know.
As the enterprise stabilizes and begins to generate orders, it enters what is known as a growth phase. The major concerns now become managing cash, meeting deadlines, and being able to manage growth effectively, which may also sometimes mean having to change courses midstream. We have the interesting case of Polo Toys here.
I think we selected a good product range. We made a very good quality product, and we deliberately priced ourselves a little lower than the market leader. We knew the distribution network because we had already distributed similar toys earlier. So our launch was quite good, in fact. Since we were used to working in large organizations with bigger resources, better resources, we had to first put together our finances for the business. So that was the first real challenge that we faced in terms of putting in our own equity, which was, of course, pulled from our various savings. And then we had to apply for bank loans, which we got quite expeditiously. There was no problem there. But then we had to put together a team. And being a small scale enterprise, we couldn't really offer remuneration levels which we were used to offering when we were working in a larger company. So we were looking for people with potential and talent rather than taking on people with experience. So we would have to compensate them on a higher level. Well, as far as getting together our financials were concerned, our story was quite credible. Our bankers liked our project. We had already launched our products in the market, so that gave our financial institutions a little confidence. So we could, whatever finances were required for the initial stage was possible. And as far as selecting people and getting together a team was concerned, there I would say that we were not very much successful. We had constraints which I just mentioned. So we had to also adopt some kind of a make-do approach. See, after our initial launch, which was quite successful, we went through a phase when we had to introduce newer products to sustain the market and keep our growth going. And while all this was happening, the cost of marketing products on a nationwide basis, that really increased. And we felt that the cost effectiveness of servicing a large distribution network. We had over 50 distributors all over the country, a sales force of about 15-16 people. We were not getting the kind of sales volumes which could justify this kind of a network. And secondly, there are, unfortunately, in the toy trade, quite distinct seasons and non-seasons. The toy sales to the consumer are concentrated towards a period which starts from Diwali and ends with Christmas. In fact, that is almost 1/3 or 1/4 of the year. The balance period, you have to basically try to keep your products on the shelf, and the gift-related markets work during those days. We identified a very important segment of selling toys to institutions. See, large companies, very well-known consumer brands, they constantly have to promote their products by certain giveaways. And we identified 2-3 large corporations, multinational corporations, who were already in this business. And one brand, who sell chocolates, right? We have designed a product which is tailor-made to their requirements. In fact, this product has been specially developed by us. The whole idea was conceived by us for a company which sells chocolates. Now, this truck is a toy. It houses 5 chocolates, which are sold as a gift pack by the company. Now, this company placed a very large order on us, and we are constantly supplying this item to them. We feel that having bulk business from large corporations, although this is low margin business, it's good volume and very sustained business, can help us to redefine or I would say remuster our strength to get back into the market in a full-fledged manner. We certainly feel that there is a lot of potential in the business that we are in, and there are a lot of allied lines which we can get into. We can get into plastic injection molding in a very big way. We can get into exports in a very big way, which we have still not even looked into. And if we can start catering to the export market in the times to come, we will not only become medium scale, we will become large scale, even higher.
A period of sustained growth leads to the expansion phase. This is also the time quite a number of small enterprises make the transition from being small to being medium or large. As the activities of the enterprise become more varied and the enterprise becomes larger, the need for decentralization makes itself felt. The style of management also tends to become more professional. The major challenges in this case then become the need to delegate, the need to decentralize, and the need to innovate to be able to find new markets. We have the interesting case of Jupiter Radios to illustrate this point.
Prime challenge is the innovations. We have to be very foresighted. What are the new changes likely to be in this? Like in 1970, when we started making black and TV set, technology was wall technology. So it immediately changed to hybrid to solid state. Then when we were going ahead towards the black and white TV set, immediately it switched over to the color TV sets. So same way color TV also, lot of changes in the technology. So we have to be very innovative to cope with the changing technologies of the world. We have to be very strong in our R&D to cope with all the changing technologies of the world, so that we keep ourselves ahead of our competitors, or at least to be within the market on an international level. then we need a right kind of the persons to manage whole of the show, both on production line, quality, R&D, as well as on the administrative side. We have been keeping pace with this requirement of capital growth or cash flow, particularly whatever are our growing profits, those are being replowed in the investment itself. Like any other area, consumer product particularly is very competitive within the country as well as outside the country also. So TV industry too is very competitive. From the very beginning, even though we were very small, we gave due importance to R&D as well as to the quality control, which helped us firstly to be innovative, then to be cost reducing factors and maintaining a better quality when comparing to our competitors. And then was having a trained manpower. When we started in electronics, hardly any people were available for TVs or even radio transistors also. So we have to keep a trained manpower, which we were training within in-house in the factory also, and we were sending our people abroad also for getting the training on the latest technology. And then we were depending on the finances from the bank also. When we switched over from one product to another product, like radio transistor to black and white to TV, color TV sets, there was a sudden demand for a higher amount of cash flow. So bankers have definitely helped us. With the growth of the industry as well as our marketing and manpower also, so we have to change the strategy also. Many of the fields which earlier we were looking ourselves, now these have to be scattered within the administrative setup of the senior managers. First, our even diversification would be within the same electronics line. Now we are planning to introduce 3-in-1 in 14 inches black and white TV set with radio and tape recorder. Apart from these, we would like to diversify toward the household products also, which is becoming the need of the day in the country, like the desert cooler and the washing machine, dishwashers, etc.
As the rate of expansion stabilizes and reaches a plateau, the enterprise enters what is known as the maturity phase. The day-to-day running of the enterprise ceases to be a challenge to the entrepreneur, and the trend towards delegation and decentralization become more pronounced. The entrepreneur at this stage starts looking for innovations, diversification, and even in some cases for succession planning. This was the case with Translam, an organization which makes transformer laminations.
First most important challenge before me is that I have to prepare successor who can take the work in this unit properly. The second one is that suddenly this item has become very competitive. Earlier this was not the case, but now these days it has become very competitive. So I have to look after how to come out. The third is financial crunch. As my product is associated in a way with the elective boards of the country, and they are in financial crunch. Therefore, in return, I am naturally affected. The fourth is marketing. Here I feel that I am feeling some deficiency on marketing side. As for quite some time, I was thinking that I have to leave this business and I need a successor. Therefore, I prepare my son. He used to sit with me, and I have given all powers to him. Day-to-day, all decision, day-to-day working, he is looking after. And the price of this item is more or less fixed, and I can't play much on that part. Therefore, I identified that there should be some cost reduction. It can be only on my raw material, which is an imported one. So I started developing good relations with the overseas suppliers. I pick up the material immediately and I book it and at an economic price. Because of the crunch, financial crunch with the state elective boards, as they are paying the dues very late, I thought that it will not be possible only financial assistance from the bank. Various sources that is relations and my family members and others, and some other financial institutions also I have identified. I have given powers to everybody, to my managers, to successor and all that they can take decisions, and they are taking decisions. But I have asked that it should be reported to me periodically. Regarding policy matter, it should be discussed with me first, and then they can take decisions on that. Now, regarding this unit, I think is not a capital intensive unit where we need a very large capital. Therefore, there is no need that we should go for a large scale unit regarding this item. As this item which we are manufacturing here is 100% imported material, and there is hardly any chance to again re-export it. However, of course, I am thinking for diversification, and for that I am looking that I must go for some international market for other projects.
Dynamism is fundamental to growth and sustained development. A small entrepreneur should be able to appreciate that managerial effort demanded of him at different stages of the life of his enterprise would differ from stage to stage. A set of strategies which served him very well at one stage of the enterprise would not be as effective as the enterprise moves on to a different stage in its life cycle. Constant evolution of coping strategies and a balance between the organization's response and the effort demanded, therefore, becomes the hallmark of a successful entrepreneur. Starting as a loner or with a small band of people, it should be possible for the entrepreneur to be able to recognize the need for designing systems and organization as the enterprise grows and develops. Of key importance to an entrepreneur are effective resource management, successive delegation, and ultimately succession planning.